Hello world, Shelly here, and today I've got for you day 5 of Foundation Fest. We are wrapping up yet another Foundation Fest. I have almost 30 foundation reviews on my channel at this point, which is crazy. I am working on putting them all together in like a searchable kind of database that I can put up on my website, which currently is just a blog of all these videos that I make, but I would like to put something like that up there. So I'm working on that. If you would like to see something like that, let me know in the comments down below, because I think it'd be kind of cool where you can just go back and search by different various features that I mentioned during these reviews and see which foundations come up with those features and check all the grades that I end up with and all that good stuff. So today, without further ado, we are going to get into this with the MAC Studio Sculpt foundation. Now, you guys may have seen that I reviewed the MAC Mineralized foundation earlier. I will link that down below if you missed it. And I loved how it wore. I had the wrong color match. It was my first MAC foundation. I did not realize that the NC for cool and the NW for warm were actually reversed. So I had bought an NC foundation because I'm a cool undertone, and it was far too yellow for me because in the MAC world, NC is for warm undertone people and NW is for cool undertone people. Totally backwards, but whatever. So when I went to get the Studio Sculpt, I went with an NW and I went one shade lighter. I had gotten NC 20 with the Mineralize, and this is NW 15. So thought going a little bit lighter and on the cool side would be a better match. So let's take a look at MAC's website and see if we got any information about this particular foundation. So this retails for $34, but you get 1.3 fluid ounces of product for your $34. Now, if you compare that to a typical jar of foundation that gives you 1 fluid ounce, that is the equivalent of about a $26 foundation. So if you're comparing ounce by ounce, this is about $26 compared to a typical 1 ounce foundation. So it's 34 bucks for 1.3 fluid ounces. And they describe this as a luxurious creamy foundation that delivers ultimate hydration. Yes, that's what sold me on the whole thing, while instantly revitalizing the look of dull and dry skin. Innovative gel-based system provides outstanding skin feel, medium to full buildable coverage with a natural satin finish. There's a bunch of words, micronized, I don't even know what that means. I'm not going to read those words. And this offers SPF 15 sun protection, comfortable on all skin types, but especially suited, and I quote, for normal, dry, and mature skin. That sounds to me like this is going to look good on fine lines and wrinkles. It's going to look good on textured skin, skin with pores visible. That is one of the first times I've ever heard a foundation claim to be good for mature skin. So I'm very excited about that, because if you haven't seen a lot of my videos, I'm 42 years old. I have the beginnings of crow's feet. I've got some fine lines. I've got very dry skin. I've got sunspots to cover up. I've got some things going on. It's just the early stages. Wear sunscreen, people, every day, but I've got things going on. So I'm really excited about that. The key claims: it is long wearing, offers broad-based SPF 15, long-term hydration. I'm reading this right off the website. I'm quoting this. Stay true color, please no oxidizing, water resistant, dermatologist tested, and ophthalmologist tested. I'm glad they test this, because you do put your foundation around your eyes. Yes, thank you, MAC. That sounds wonderful. Apply to the face using a sponge or a foundation brush, or blend with fingers, sponge, or brush. So it sounds like this should work any which way you want to try it. So in this video, I'm going to give you guys a demonstration. You'll see how it goes on my face. We'll do a daylight check-in later on and a wrap-up at the end of the night. So let's see how the MAC Studio Sculpt foundation holds up on this crazy mug. Here are some swatches. First up today, we've got the MAC Studio Sculpt in shade NW15. Then we have Estee Lauder's Double Wear in 1C1 Cool Bone. Fiona Styles Matte Finish Foundation Concentrate in shade 01. This is the Smashbox Studio Skin 15 Hour Wear Foundation in shade 1.0. And last up is the Giorgio Armani Luminous Silk Foundation in shade 3, the only warm one of these bunch. What am I talking about? But if you look at these, isn't it interesting how very similar in tone they are? They're all on the cool side of the spectrum, and they all look very similar. Here goes, as usual. I have cleansed and moisturized my face, applied my sunscreen, and I've primed with the Urban Decay Urban Defense Primer, which I love. And as usual, I'm going to do one side of my face with a sponge. This is the L'Oreal Infallible Sponge, which I really like. It's just very easy to hold, and it's got a very similar pounce to a Beauty Blender, but a little bit fatter of a butt. I don't know what I'm saying. You know what I mean. Like, it seems faster because you can cover more surface area more quickly. And the other side, I will use a brush. This is my Artis Oval 7. Oval 7. Words. Speaking English. Yes, it's day 5. What do you want? I can't. It's not working. Not working. Also, I'm pretty hopped up on allergy meds right now, so it's gonna be a day. We've got our MAC Studio Sculpt. I hope I got the right shade this time. Figured out the whole NC versus NW. Why does it have to be backwards? I don't know, but it is. And this actually has a little bit SPF in it. It's SPF 15, but we're not going to rely on that for covering our faces because you will very rarely put a product like this on in sufficient quantity to get the rated SPF that's on the label. So do not rely on your cosmetics as your primary sunscreen. Always wear sunscreen underneath your makeup. Please, people. Please, it is one of the most important things you can do. So we've got ourselves a squeezy tube. I'm going to open this puppy up, peel off this little thingamajig. Now, I like a squeezy tube. It is hygienic and you don't have to make a big mess to get the product out, but it's hard to measure how much you are squeezing out onto your palette. I like pumps the best because then I can really get a good measure. 2 pumps is my norm, but, you know, we'll go with it. That probably looks like enough. Looks like a fairly thick formula. We don't have any running happening. Ooh, it's pretty. It seems kind of moussey. Let's start with a brush. Coverage right off the bat seems significantly nice, or thorough. I feel like I'm having to sort of finesse this a little bit. I'm getting some brush strokes. But once you smooth it out, the finish looks really nice. Right off the bat, I would say we are at a high-medium, solid to high-medium coverage. I really like the finish. It is a sort of natural satin matte finish. It's doing a little bit to blur some texture, and I think my pores look really nice on my cheeks. They're slightly blurred. So let's try the sponge side and see how that goes. I think I got slightly better coverage with a brush, but I think both sides look equally nice in their finish, so I think you could really go either way. I've got just a little bit of product left from what I had squeezed out, so I'm going to see if this is just a little bit buildable on some of my darker spots. I'm just going to use the sponge because it's faster. Definitely buildable. I think I could definitely get this to full coverage if I wanted to. I can barely see my sunspots poking through, and that was with a really pretty minimal amount of product. So the coverage on this is really nice. It looks slightly dry, especially on my nose. My nose looks a little bit heavy and a little bit dry. So it's not as luminous of a satin finish as I expected, but little closer to matte, but it still looks really nice. I think it looks smoothing in terms of texture. It is doing a decent job of smoothing pores, not the most amazing. I can still see my pores, but they do look slightly blurred than without foundation. I think the color match is pretty good. My instinct was to say it's a little dark because it's a little darker than my neck, but I think it matches my chest and my arms pretty well, so I think it is a pretty good color match. This is the NW15, which is a slightly cool undertone foundation, and it's on the lighter end of their spectrum, not the lightest of the light. You can see I got some in my hair. Oh, another new gray hair. Ah! I'm not seeing any settling into lines at this point. It's looking pretty good. Right now it is 11:44 a.m., so we will call the check-in time 11:45, and I'm gonna go put the rest of my face on. I'll be right back. I'm back. I think this foundation looks really nice. I barely set it with my Physicians Formula Youthful Wear powder, just the tiniest bit, and I think it looks really nice. It's not settling into any lines. Everything blended out nicely on top of it. I didn't have any issues. I think it looks nice. It is a natural satin leaning toward matte finish, but I think now that everything's on and I've got some color back in my face, L'Oreal Glam Bronze, it's back on the market. Get it while you can. They run it in the summertime and it's my favorite bronzer. And there's a hair on my lip. I don't see any problem spots with this foundation right now. It looks like it has the potential to potentially cake up around my nose and my dry patch around there. But so far it hasn't, and so far it's not settling, and it's looking pretty good. So I am going to go about my day. Gotta go to work, gotta teach a class. I will give you guys a daylight check-in in a few hours and check the color match and how it's wearing. And I'll be back at the end of the night to give you my final update. Check-in time. Sorry for the sun. I'll try to get into the shade so you can see the color of this foundation, which I think is a teeny tiny bit too dark for me. I might go one shade lighter next time I try a MAC foundation, but I've got to say it is 5:45 p.m. right now, and I am shocked at how fresh this still looks. The only place that's starting to have a little wear is my chin, where I'm feeling a little bit more oily. I think my skin might be going into what ends up being like a normal phase where I'm a little bit less dry than usual, because I don't usually produce a whole lot of oil, and now I feel like I do look a little bit dewy, but I'm also a little bit sweaty because it's a little bit hot and it's a little bit sunny and I got the roof open. So that is what's going on right now. We are looking pretty good at the 6-hour mark. Did I say that? It's 5:45. We started at 11:45. That means, yes, 6 hours. So that's where we're at. Looking good so far. I really like the finish on this foundation. It's comfortable. It's not the lightest foundation on the planet, but it's not heavy at all. I would say it's probably just a little bit lighter than average, but I wouldn't call it totally lightweight either. But it's very comfortable, having no issues with dryness or anything like that. So I will be back in a few hours this evening to wrap up. Hello. It is 9:36 p.m., which means that we are less than 10 minutes away from the 10-hour mark with the MAC Studio Sculpt foundation. And what do you think, guys? I gotta tell ya, I don't think I have seen a foundation perform this well over a 10-hour period in a very long time. This looks really nice. It is starting to fade in terms of the coverage, but it's fading so gracefully that it just still looks really nice. It has gotten a little bit more dewy as the day has gone on, and I think that helped it, actually, because it was slightly dry looking in the very beginning, although as it sort of, I don't know, warmed up to my body chemistry, I think it started to look more natural. I really enjoyed the finish every time I saw it throughout the day. And you saw even this afternoon, this face went through some wind-blown looks. I had the top down on the Jeep, and I was sweating a little bit. It was warm outside. I was running around in different places, and it held up really well. In terms of it wearing down, I think the only place that I'm seeing noticeable wear is on my chin. And just the spot under my lower lip is a little bit heavier, cakey looking. It did not cake up around my nose, which I was sort of expecting it to, and it really didn't. It really did not settle into any lines, my chin lines, my mouth smile lines, my forehead lines. The coverage on my cheeks still looks good. It still looks, as smooth and less textured as it did earlier. Pores still look slightly blurred. I don't really know what to say. I feel like this foundation looks really nice after 10 hours. And that kind of blows me away. It really, really does. Because I think even up close, this still looks pretty doggone nice. So if I had to give the MAC Studio Sculpt foundation a grade, this is an absolute A for me. I think this has worn really well. It was very comfortable to wear. I think it is hydrating because the fact that my skin almost looks better now than it did when I put it on, I think it is hydrating. My skin does not feel dry in any way. It probably feels actually more moisturized than it did when I started. It's a pretty lightweight formula. It's not the most lightweight thing I've ever worn, but it's lighter than average. It's not sticky. It's very comfortable. It didn't settle into fine lines. It didn't dry my skin out. It didn't accentuate texture. It didn't accentuate pores. These are all things that I'm looking for in terms of what I want out of a foundation at 42 years old with what I've got going on my face. Since they do make claims about mature skin, I feel like you could probably have even more troublesome areas than I do and still have success with this foundation. I don't know what else to say. I think this is one of my favorites so far that I have ever tried, and that's pretty cool. So there you have it, an A for the MAC Studio Sculpt. The only thing I think I might change is try one shade slightly lighter. I'm still sort of debating the color match between my face and my neck. It's just a hair too dark, but totally not even noticeable to most people. I'm probably the only one noticing it. So there it is. We're giving it a solid A. I am super stoked about this foundation. I'm so glad to end this Foundation Fest series on a positive note. If you would like to see more foundation reviews, give me a thumbs up down below and let me know in the comments what foundations you would like to see. I keep a running list and I get my hands on them whenever I can. And that's it. Thanks a lot for taking some time out of your day to geek out over makeup with me. I appreciate it as usual, and I hope that you all have an awesome day or night wherever you are in the world. Take care of each other. Bye-bye.